Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Tommy, and I'm a portrait and travel photographer. For those of you that don't know me, thank you all so much for being here. This is the first time that I'm doing a photographic live demonstration here. We've got quite a few cameras around, which is very scary. I'm going to introduce you to a few people first, but let me tell you what we're doing today. We're going to be doing 5 ways to use one softbox. So we're trying to recreate one of my most popular videos on YouTube. And I thought for the first one that maybe I should cover and try the video that has that's been the most popular on my YouTube channel. So let me introduce you. So first of all, in the background, we've got Joe. Joe is our beautiful model today. You might recognize Joe from a few of my videos before. And we've also got Graham. Graham here to my left. Graham is going to be affiliating and doing all of the comments, and he's going to be making sure that the stream's going relatively well, smooth as possible. Have we got anyone?
We've got loads of people here.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Loads of people on. All from around the world: New York, Canada, Brazil, Beirut, loads of places.
Amazing. Do you know what? I was really worried that that I was going to have no one watching here. You know, I don't think I told you. My nan this morning, she says, "Oh, I'll be watching Tom," but that's only because EastEnders is not on tonight, so that's only why I'm going to tune in.
It's the best night then.
I know.
The best night.
I know. I intentionally didn't realise. Okay, right. Nerves out. I'm just going to pretend I'm doing it to everyone in the room. We've got Cassie at the background. My sister Cassie. She's going to be vision mixing. She's cutting to all the different cameras. We've got Mr. Michael Mowbray over on this camera. We've got Dan on this camera, and we've got Steve on this camera. We've got Kaylee who's hiding over here. She's our beautiful makeup artist. She might pop in at some point to touch up on some of the makeup. But yeah, guys, if you have any questions at all, first of all, can you hear me? I should have said that probably earlier, a bit earlier. If you can hear me, if you can see me, okay, then just let us know in the comments. Graham can also, with his special fancy laptop, he can actually bring comments on screen. So as and when they come in, Graham, if there's anything you want to jump in, just jump in and let me know.
I'll be watching.
For full disclosure, tonight's stream will be sponsored by Pixapro. So tonight we're going to be using the Pixapro City 300. This is my newest strobe that I've used recently. It's my last YouTube video, we did a review on this. Joe was actually in that video as well, and it's a really great light. One of the reasons why I wanted to use this light in particular tonight is because in my previous original video where I did this pre-recorded, a lot of comments were from people saying you probably only achieved those shots because you were using a really expensive 600 watt strobe, and that obviously isn't the case. So to prove them wrong, we're going to be using a smaller strobe, a more affordable strobe, to show you that you can achieve these results even with a cheaper strobe. So let's get straight into it, because I don't want to hold this up. I don't want to kind of bore anyone. So we're going to be doing 5 different ways to use one softbox. The softbox we're going to be using, Graham, can I actually ask you to get that ready for me? So the softbox we're going to be using today is the 150 centimeter easy open softbox, again by Pixapro. This is a great softbox. It's one of my go-to softboxes. I use it all the time when I'm in studio controlled environments. It's not too big and it's not too small, and it gives me a lovely, beautiful light. It's, I think if you're thinking of getting a softbox, maybe you have around the 60 centimeter and you want to progress maybe up to a much more bigger softbox, then I would totally recommend this 150. I use it all the time. So can I ask you to mount that for me, Graham? And let me just see. We've got Andy Holmes. Bring me on screen, Graham. Oh, I'm
busy, mate, at the moment.
He's busy at the moment. He's multitasking. We've got Kevin Hamill, good audio. Good, thanks Cassie, thanks for sorting us out. Mark Chambers, all good, yes, fine. Yes, loud and clear. Okay, that's awesome. And my fiance's watching. Hi Emily, thanks for watching. My nan hasn't commented yet. What's that about? Maybe she can't actually. Picked up the 170 and 120 myself. The 170 is great. But rather huge. That's from Richard Bradbury. Yeah, that is pretty big. Do you know what? I used that one a couple of years ago, the 170 in particular, and it was almost too soft. I actually had to use the grid because I felt that it was just too soft of a light. I don't know if that's even possible. Right, let's get into it. Okay, so we're using the 150. We're going to start with our first setup. We're going to go for a classic 45-degree angle. This is my go-to. I love this. It's kind of the first angle that I'll tend to go with. We're going to look at feathering the light as well, but before we get there, let's just actually take a shot and make sure that this is all working. This reminds me of doing demos at the photography show, and the first shot usually is always the one that messes up on the tether. Let's see if the tether is actually behaving and see if it's doing its thing. Right, are you ready, Joe? Are you good? You ready? Okay, so I actually forgot my light meter today, which is very silly of me, so we're going to just do this by eye. Okay, so a tip actually before I get started, a good tip and a good rule of thumb, if you want to get kind of a good range or kind of get your catch light looking really nice, is my go-to is I generally go to the model's eye line, and then when I can just see Joe's eye line right there, that's it. At the bottom, when kind of the bottom meets the model's eye line, that's generally my starting place. That's where I like to start. Okay. So let's give that a go. So setting wise, I'm at 1/60th of a second at f5.6 at ISO 200, and I'm using a 50mm f1.4. Mike, do you want me to now address this camera, or you good? Yeah? Okay, cool. He's giving me the nod. And then Graham, any comments that come on screen, just ping them up on screen, just to know that people's comments are coming in. All right, Joe, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So just to prove that the lighting, the ambient light in here is not making a difference, I'm going to take a shot without flash. Let me just get a quick test shot, Joe. So don't worry too much about what I'm doing just yet. We're just going to take a, that was good. It's full any face. So you can see looking at that, and hopefully Cassie's bringing it up on screen. Yeah, she's giving me the thumbs up. So you can see, you can hardly see Joe. So even with all the lighting in here, it's not really making a difference to our exposure. So that means that anything you do see tonight will only be influenced by this one light source. All right.
Ed's just come in with a question.
Yep.
He's asked, is most of the light going over the model now? Obviously, you've just shown that the overhead lights aren't affecting the light, but is the light coming over, is that going mostly over the model at the moment?
So at the moment, yeah, we can see, we probably haven't got the angle here, but
we have got the model light on, obviously.
We have got the modern light on, yes, and it is covering. So it's pretty much hitting Joe pretty much dead center. We are going to, in a moment, feather that light and show you the difference between having it straight onto the model, which is what I guess most people would throw the light on and start with. But when you actually feather the light, it's actually when you get a much better quality of light. And that's when you just angle it off of the model. But we'll get there. Good question, Ed. Okay. Let's give it a go, Joe. Okay, so I'm at 1/8 power. Let's give this a go. Actually, Joe, can you actually flip your knees so that they're towards Graham for me? That's it, lovely. Okay, really nice. Okay, so this is just going to be square on to Joe, so we're not feathering it. We're just going to get a light and see what this looks like straight out. Okay, hold that, Joe. Lovely, hold that. Okay, just see that come in. Okay, can everyone see that at home, Cass?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Okay, not bad for a first go. Okay, so that's at the roughly 45-degree angle. Fairly nice light, but I much prefer the quality of light when you feather the light, when you move it just off of center. So let's see what happens when we do that, if we compare the two. So I'm literally just going to pull it this way. So I've not moved it that much, but if we actually look at this angle, it's almost coming right past Joe. It's not really hitting her. It's going to come right past here. And what we're doing is we're getting the feather, the edge of that softbox. We're getting the quality of light coming off of the edge of it. And that, for me, is the better quality of light. So let's take another one just to compare the two.
That was just a question that we just had coming in, actually.
Yep.
Saying, is it a good idea to not point the softbox directly at the model, but just give her a flow of light that is coming off the edge?
Yeah, 100%. Who was that by?
Salmon. I thought they're pronouncing that right. Salmon.
Yeah.
Salmon as if.
100%. Yeah. I guess most people, and yeah, fair enough. I did it at the start. I would just always go dead center and not really change. I maybe would change the height, but not really change the angle in which it's looking at the model at. But now it is something I always do. I don't know about you, Graham. Do you always tend to feather your light as well?
Well, I tend to do a lot of newborns and babies and stuff like that, which we want the softer light.
Yeah.
And for me, definitely using feathered light is a lot less softer. You don't get those hot spots on the nose and the forehead.
Yeah.
So I instantly every day feather my light.
100%. So we'll take a shot now, and then we can compare those two shots. Okay, same again, Joe. So I'm not changing the settings. We're going to keep everything the same and look at the differences. Lovely, Joe. Okay, so if we see the difference there, Cass, if you're seeing that, one of the things that I'm seeing straight away is actually the quality of light on the background. So actually, the good thing about doing this is not only are you getting the softer edge of the light, but you're also moving that light further away from the backdrop, which effectively is making the backdrop a little bit darker, which actually I like, because then that means that Joe's going to stand out even more, if that makes sense. So we'll take a few more because I want to show you guys how I kind of interact and talk to a model, and then we'll start to think about moving on to our next setup. And
cool.
But I'm fairly happy with the exposure, actually. Let me zoom in. So I don't know if you can, again, Cass, if you're showing everyone at home. So I want you guys to pay attention to the catch light. Look at the position. Look exactly where it is. If you can see, it's almost looks like a half moon shape. We're only seeing half of it at the top there, but that for me personally, it's my sweet spot. That's where I like to have the catch light. If it was any lower, we'd obviously see more of the catch light, but for me, the shadows wouldn't fall as naturally. So just to show you an example, if I was to pull this right down,
Eric's just asking what power is the flash on at the moment?
The power of the flash is on 1/8 power. 1/8 power. So I've still got plenty of room to bring this up to full power if I needed to, but I don't need to, which is great about the City 300. It's being able to keep up with me. I mean, you can hear as soon as we take a shot, when it beeps and it's ready for the next shot, it's pretty quick at 1/8 power. So let me take another shot now. We've lowered the angle of the light, and this is where you can really see the difference in having the angle at that eye level that we said earlier. So if I take another shot now so we can compare all three. Lovely, Joe. Have you looking towards me this time? Hold that. Lovely. Okay, so you can see the difference there. For me, that just feels it almost feels too artificial. You can see the quality of light, the bulk of it is almost sitting Joe here. And I don't like that. I want it to be much, much higher. Again, if we zoom in, we can see the catch light, we can see more of the catch light in the eye, but that isn't my sweet spot. There we go. So if we compare the two, I'm going to remember the keyboard shortcut that Graham taught me earlier. You select both and then it's N?
N, yeah.
Yeah, got it.
There you go.
Okay. So we can see the difference there, how when it's much lower, it's hitting more of Joe's arm rather than a bit higher up. Ideally, I'd probably like to try and go even higher, but I'm a little bit limited on the space here. Let me see how high I can go.
Someone Asif has just come back again and asked, first of all, says thanks for asking your first question, but what's the difference between using a softbox for these kind of for these kind of shots compared to a beauty dish? So why are we using a softbox rather than a beauty dish? Obviously, apart from the title of the video is how to use a softbox.
Of course, yeah.
But what's the difference between a softbox and a beauty dish?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, we'll briefly talk about that. So well, first of all, you would never feather a beauty dish. Beauty dishes is designed that you would hit the model directly front on, because of the design of the beauty dish is obviously that dish in the center. That's going to be the softest part because the light isn't coming through and hitting the model in center, because it's hitting that dish first and coming around. So you would never feather it, first of all, and then it just gives you a different quality of light. So it's going to be more specular, it's going to be more contrasty. So it depends on what kind of thing you're photographing. Me personally, I tend to go for softboxes. They're very, I think they're a good all-rounder, whereas with a beauty dish, I would tend to kind of save your beauty dish more for editorial, kind of fashiony work. But for everything else, for most things, I would use a softbox. But I will be doing a video very soon on my YouTube channel comparing the differences between a softbox and a beauty dish. So please check out that very soon.
That'd be a great question.
Graham, are we bringing comments on screen as well?
Yeah, some of the larger ones don't seem to be coming up, so only doing the beginning of them.
Okay, cool. No, that's fine.
There was another question by Travel Ray. He's basically saying, what's the name and model for the light stand you're using at the moment?
What's the good question? So that answer, it should be in the description. Depending on where you're watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, it should be in the description of this video. There are affiliate links, but this is, I forget the exact name of it, but it's basically a C stand on wheels. And we are also using a heavy duty boom arm as well. This will come in useful later on when we do our other setup, our overhead setup. But the answer to that should be in the description of this video. All right, what was I gonna do? I've totally forgotten. Let's take a few more shots and let's just banter, Joe. All right. Oh yeah, that's what we were doing. I've raised it up even higher than eye level just to see what it looks like, and I've feathered it. So we're trying to combine everything that we're doing so far with this 45-degree angle. Okay, Joe. Okay, let's have your knees more this way again. That's it, lovely. And let's have actually your eye line kind of up here as well. Actually, let's bring this shoulder more towards me here. That's it. That's it. Hold that for me. That's it. Okay, that's looking really nice. Let me come back a little bit more. So Joe, every time you hear the click, I want you to change it up for me. So your key word is to fidget. That's lovely, actually. And we get a little bit closer in. That's it. Yeah, just keep fidgeting, keep playing with the hair. That's lovely. Okay, hold that. So Joe has magic hair, by the way. I only know this from obviously working with Joe before. So Joe, I want you to do me a favor for me. I want you to see if you can bring your hair over to this side for me. So Joe has the ability to just throw her hair the other side and it just looks great straight away. Yeah, that looks cool. Okay, there's same again. That's it. Hold that. Lovely. And then just keep fidgeting. That's it.
Chica's just
Lovely.
asked,
Hold that. Great.
if it's still a good idea to feather the light when you're using a grid on the
Awesome.
softbox.
Say that again, sorry, Graham.
She's asked, is it still a good idea to feather the light when you have a grid on the softbox, or you just not bother?
So when you have a grid on the softbox, the idea of the grid is that it stops the light from feathering out left and right. So ideally, I wouldn't. If I was going to feather the light, then I wouldn't have the grid on. So if I'm using a grid, it's because I don't want the light to bounce out left, right, center. I want it to be channeled forward. That's when I'm intentionally going for a contrasted look, even more contrasted than when it is front on. I hope that answers your question. So yeah, use a grid if you really want it more contrasty and when you want to cut out the light around even on the background, and then save your feathered look when you take that grid off. All right. Okay, how are we doing for time? 18 minutes in and we've only done setup 1. We better move on. All right. So setup 2, remind me what setup 2 was.
Setup 2 is clamshell.
Clamshell. All right. So as we, Graham, if you wouldn't mind helping me go into clamshell, and while Graham's doing that, I'm just going to check some of the comments. Watching on YouTube, don't see in light stand info in show notes. So the light stand info, so we're at 1/8 power. I've not changed the power of this yet. We're at 1/8 power, and my settings, if you need reminding, is at 1/160th of a second, f4.5 at ISO 200. Those are my settings. I'm going to see if I can stay as close to that. If I do change anything, it'll be my aperture. I won't be my aperture. I don't know why I said it like that. But I'm not going to change my ISO and shutter speed. That's it. I had a mind blank then. Okay. Okay, Andy Holmes says clamshell is my fave. So what clamshell is, for those of you that don't know, is we're basically going to clam the model inside of this little gap. What we're going to do is we're going to position the softbox up high in front of Joe, and then we're going to have a reflector just underneath. So we're kicking a bit of light on the unlit sides of the face on the shadows down here. So I'm going to bring this up here, and this is why this stand is so useful. Having it on wheels is amazing. Another nice thing about having the boom arm is that obviously I can boom it slightly off center so that I'm almost not hugging the light stand. So before I got a boom arm, I was having to shoot like that, which is fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this just makes it just that little bit easier. Okay, that's really cool, Graham. Thank you.
That's as low as it go, I believe.
That should be all right, actually. It should be a good angle. Okay, so as you can see, we're literally clamming the model in. I don't know if camera guys, how well you're going to see, Joe, so sorry about this at home. Actually, just going to bring this down and then move it this way. So the beauty of live is that me and Mike would usually cut all this stuff out so that we can get to the good bit. Or usually I'm moving in a slow motion because we usually film in slow motion. So this is what you're getting for live. We should do it live. I should do it now. Just pretend that I'm it. Just put some music in the background as well. Like, I usually go with a. By the way, yeah, all the music, as long as it has oohs and ahs in it, then it's usually a track that I'll pick. I'm a sucker for oohs and ahs.
Rohit's just asked, does the smaller the size of the Octabox need different setup, like distances from the model or the placing of the light if you're using a smaller softbox?
Yes, that's a great question. Who's that from?
Rohit, I believe that's how we pronounce it.
Rohit. So that's a great question, Rohit. So when it comes to softbox size, yes, that will affect the quality of light. However, there is a cheat. If you want to make your softbox appear larger or have a softer quality of light, then if you can, try and park your softbox as close as you can to the model. The more you park it away, then the harder it's going to look. So if you want it to appear like maybe a 150 centimeter softbox and you have a smaller one, then try and park your softbox as close as you can and it will almost appear like a larger softbox, if that makes sense. So yeah, great question. Yeah, if you want your softbox to look larger, just try and get it as close as you can. Okay, are you ready, Joe?
I'm ready. Sorry.
So even these little reflector arms that we're using, they're really inexpensive. Again, they're from the PixPro website, which is the sponsor for tonight's stream.
I'll admit I don't know how to use it properly.
Just go. No, it's all right, man. It was just a thing at the back here that just needed tightening. He says. Okay. I'm just going to put that there. Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a shot so you can see. We've literally clammed Joe in there. Don't know if you can see Joe. There she is. Yeah.
Said I feel like
An oyster? An oyster?
I think so.
We'll go with it. We'll go with it. You're a pearl oyster. All right, so we're going to take a test shot. I didn't bring my light meter, so we're just going to do it by eye. Because not a lot of people use light meters, and a lot of people don't like to use light meters, but I kind of like to use them just because I'm a little bit nerdy like that. But let me take a test shot and let's just see how this looks. All right, hold that there, Joe. Lovely. All right, okay. Well, that's way too bright. But it's a good quality of light. I can tell it will be a good quality of light once I just dial my settings down. So let's just try bringing that down. Same again, Joe. Lovely.
That's actually a very
nice.
poignant time. So Theodore's just asked a question and asked, do you believe the brand of your lighting affects the quality?
I really don't think it does. I really don't think it does. I think if you handed me a 90 centimeter softbox from any brand, I don't think you would see much of a difference. I really don't think so. What the question you should be asking yourself is what size softbox, for example, you need and what kind of quality it's going to give you. That should be more of the question you should be asking yourself. So it's obviously down to affordability and it's obviously down to what you prefer. I personally prefer to use PixPro. I think they're really affordable, and I think for what you're getting, I think they make really great products. And if it's not doing what I need it to do, then it's not the right maybe choice of softbox size or type of light. So yeah, it really doesn't matter. This is just my opinion. So it's whatever you can afford and obviously what you prefer. That is it basically. All right, so I'm just going to tweak my settings just one more time. So now I'm just going to drop down from, I know I said I wouldn't change my ISO, but I'm doing it anyway. So I'm going from ISO 200 to 100. That's awesome. Hold that, Joe. Lovely. Okay, so you can see just how lovely and soft this light is now compared to maybe our first setup. And that's obviously because of the direction of light. So when it was at 45-degree angle, we had a bit of shadow coming down here. When it's obviously in front, we're obviously getting a nice filled light, but we're also using the reflector as well. And the reflectors are so inexpensive. I've had this one for about 10 years. I've had this reflector for 10 years and I still use it even today. And as a show of good measure, let's actually take this out. I'm going to take another shot just to show you how much of a difference this reflector is making. So we're going to do the exact same, Joe. Oh, that's all right. So we had, left hand up here. That's it. Yeah, hold that. Lovely. Same again. All right, and if we compare the two, we'll take one. We'll take one more. we had a bit of a dirt face there. It's all good, Joe. No worries. Everyone gets a free one. We'll do one more. We'll do one more. We'll do one more. That's it. That felt good. That one felt good. Okay, yeah, we'll compare those. That's all good. It's all good. We'll compare those. So we go there and yeah. So you can see the difference with and without reflector makes. I mean, looking at that, maybe the one with the reflector was a little bit too hot, but that's just me being picky. But you get the idea. You can see the difference that reflector is making. So it does make quite a tremendous difference when you use a reflector and when you don't. So that is setup 2. That is clamshell lighting. Was there any comments before we kind of move away?
The only difference here was there was one question asked: would you use? How would you cope with this setup if someone was wearing glasses? Is there any tips or tricks you got there for?
Yeah. So if you guys have seen one of my recent videos before, Hannah Cousins will tell you this. It can be difficult, but you can work around it. So the reason why I mentioned Hannah is because in one of my videos, I did a social distancing photo shoot. In fact, Stephen on the camera over here was also involved in that as well. So you can actually hear in the video, she was like, "I will not be defeated by the glass." She did a bit of a song. And the only way around it really is just raise the softbox a little bit higher, just so you can kind of avoid those reflections in. It's obviously there's a compromise there though, obviously, because of how you raise it, then the more shadows you're going to get underneath the chin, they're going to be more prominent. So it's just a compromise. If they want to wear glasses, sometimes I will suggest they take them off just so that they can get an even better quality of light, but totally appreciate that some people prefer to keep them on. So in that case, you just raise the height of your softbox a little bit higher so the angle kind of misses the reflections in the glasses, if that makes sense. All right. All good? All good.
Emily's just said, your missus has said that the broadcast has paused. So if anyone else is getting a paused broadcast, then let us know.
Oh, okay.
She's the only one that has said that. And
maybe maybe the Wi-Fi in my house is broken already.
Alex has just said as well, a little tip is obviously tilting the glasses as well. Can also work, which I know you said it in the past.
That Alex?
Alex Bunyan.
Alex Bunyan. Hey, Alex. Yeah, also a great tip as well. Thanks for joining us on the live stream.
Yeah. No one else has mentioned that it's paused.
No one else mentioned? All right, it's just the Wi-Fi at my house then. Bloody talk. Cool. All right. I think we'll move on to the next setup then. So that's setup 2, and that's clamshell lines. Setup 3 was backlit. Okay. So we're going to move this around actually behind Joe. So Joe, if you actually come off the seat and then bring yourself forward a touch, we're actually going to position this light directly behind you. So if you bring your stool towards me, that's all right. But you can stand. You can stand for this one. And she's done.
Take a chair with you.
That's it. Come this way. That's it. Cool. Perfect. So while we're waiting for Graham to very kindly move my light for me, we can compare at the moment the images that we've taken so far. Let's actually take that one off. Yeah.
How close do you want this to Joe?
Ideally, so we want to get this as close as possible because then it looks like it will take up more of my screen in my camera. So if we can get this as close as possible, and then we've got probably room to bring it down a little bit more, Graham.
Yep. As low as it will go.
You can lean back on it.
So that is literally a couple of inches away.
Yeah, no, that's
back.
cool.
Yep. I don't think it can go any lower.
Can it not? Okay. No, that's probably fine actually.
Yeah.
By the way, we're tethering on for this live stream so that you guys can obviously see at home. Tethering is something that I do all the time. It's really helpful, not just for me, but it's actually also helpful for the model and obviously Joe as well. So actually, Joe, if I can put you on the spot, as a model, how useful is tethering to have to reference? Do you enjoy having it there as a reference? Do you like?
Yeah, I do actually. I don't know if you actually noticed me earlier, but when you do say you want to do a similar shot, you can always look back for reference, and it's easy to forget what pose you've just done, so you can have a look. If you like something, then you can try and recreate that. And then likewise, if you think you try something and then you think it works well, but you can see maybe to change it up a bit, so it is useful.
That's cool. That's cool. No, I mean, I use it all the time. I think it's so helpful. And also the model, like if I take like a series of maybe 20 images, and then if I'm trying to move to another setup, that's generally the time I might invite the model to come over to look at the images, have a look through my Lightroom catalog, and then they can like the ones they like, or P the ones, as we say, because P's for pics, the shortcut. We can P that one.
Yeah, just make sure they know it's P for pic.
P for pic, yeah, not anything else. Don't do anything else. All right. So this is backlit. So because this is going to hopefully give us a silhouette effect, Joe, it would actually be nice if we could actually move you completely to the side. That's it. And then we can get your profile. Okay. So you'll just be a, so you'll just be a silhouette. Maybe we could even, because it's going to be a silhouette, maybe you can get the model's arms involved. So maybe, Joe, you can like bring your arms up and just fidget around here so that we can see the shape of your arms and the shoulders and your jawline. Let's take a few shots and just see how it... Okay, let's see how we get on. Okay.
Whilst you're taking those, Tommy, Ray's just asked, is there a difference between using an opt box and a rectangular box? Are there certain limitations?
I mean, if there's a size difference, obviously, but obviously the major difference, in my opinion, is the shape of the catch light that's created on the image. All good? Oh, sorry. Mowbray gave me a weird look. No. Yeah, so it would be the catch light in the eyes. So obviously a rectangular one's going to obviously give you that shape. So personally, I tend to use modifiers that are either octagonal or circular. I don't really use rectangular ones. That's just me being really picky. There's nothing wrong with them. It's, again, just a personal thing. But me personally, I like the octagonal shape, or a beauty dish, which is round in the catch light in the eyes. All right?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so looking at this, it looks really nice. I'm probably going to bring down the settings once more. I can't go down on my ISO, so I'm just going to increase my aperture. Let's try 6.3. We went from 4.5 to 6.3. See if we can make this even darker. Okay, Joe, that's awesome. Chin up, hold that. Lovely. Okay, obviously you can see the softbox around, like you can see the edge, but that doesn't really bother me because I know that it's something that I could easily manipulate in Photoshop later. But let's see if we can try and fill the whole frame. What we could even do is I could swap my lens out to 100mm. I'll give you that, mate. Thank you. Okay, so I'm now on 100mm macro Canon. Let's try and get the same thing again. Okay, this is much better. Hold that, Joe. Lovely. Every time you hear the click, I want you to just fidget, and let's just get a few of these in the bag. That's lovely. Hold that, hold that. Actually, maybe ruffle your hair a little bit as well. That's lovely. I'm going to come back even more. Sorry, boys, just for a couple of shots.
Sheldon's just asked, does it matter
Joe.
if you shoot your model at a wider focal length or a tighter focal length?
Lovely.
What do you
Thanks,
do?
Joe. So do I shoot?
Does it matter if you shoot at different focal lengths? What difference? Obviously, you just changed focal length just then.
Yes.
What is the difference between going from a wider to a more telephoto?
Well, if we're talking portraits in particular, then I don't often. Well, if it was a headshot, then I wouldn't go wider than 50mm. That's me personally, because then you start to introduce barrel distortion, and it doesn't look very flattering on the model. So if I was to take a shot, I'll tell you what, we'll save it for the next setup, only because we're doing a backlit one at the moment. But in the next setup, we'll do a shot at 50mm, and then we'll flip it out to 100mm, and you'll be able to see the difference and how that changes the models, or the perspective of the image, the composition of the image, and the perspective of it as well. So when I'm doing headshots, then I would say anything between, I would actually say 85 all the way up to maybe 200mm. Now, I was using a 50mm for the first two setups, but I wasn't shooting like a really tight headshot. If I was doing that, then I would be using maybe a 100mm focal length. I'm also using a 50mm tonight as well, just so that you can see how the light is also hitting our background as well. I should mention that the background is made by Gravity Backgrounds. It's probably the only thing that isn't Pixapro here. However, Pixapro are a redistributor of Gravity Backgrounds, so you can still purchase some of their backgrounds directly from their website, but everything else has been pretty much Pixapro products, obviously apart from the lenses and the camera. But good question. We'll save it for the next setup, and then I can better show that demonstration. If anyone does have any other comments as well, if you have just tuned in, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're doing 5 ways to use one softbox, which is a popular video on my YouTube channel, and we're trying to do it here live. And we're on setup. That was setup 3. 36 minutes in. I think we're doing all right for time.
Before we move on, what was the settings you used for the backlit?
For the backlit, yeah, great question. So I didn't actually change the settings on the background. I changed the settings on my camera instead. So I could have done one of two things. I could have changed the settings on my camera, or I could have changed the settings on the flash unit itself. See, the thing with aperture is not only can you change the exposure on your camera, but it also changes how bright or how dark the flash is as well. So it's kind of a trick. If you don't want to kind of go over to your flash and turn it up and down, maybe you don't have a trigger like this. Maybe it's an older trigger like I used to use back in the day, and where you'd have to go over to the flash itself and turn it down. So you can, if you like, turn down the brightness of the flash without touching the flash. You could change your aperture when you close it down. When you close the aperture down, you're also closing down the power of the light. So that's a little tip there for you. Certainly something when I go traveling, I do as well. If I need more power out of my light, I will actually open up my aperture if I need to. Just a little tip there. All good, Graham?
All good, that sounds good.
Amazing. Right, we're going to move on to...
Everyone's saying thank you and thank for the tips and advice. It's going well.
Awesome, awesome. It's going well, I think. What was set up for? Was it
overhead?
Overhead. Maybe we'll save that question for setup 5 then. It won't be as good of a demonstration on this one, but it's still a cool setup. So this one is going to be an overhead one. So this is where the boom is going to really help us out. We're going to literally place this over the head of Joe without breaking the studio. We should have enough height. This is Kaylee, everyone. Kaylee's our wonderful makeup artist tonight. Let's have a look at. Can you show us the shots from setup 3? Jenny Pattenden. Of course I can, Jenny. How you doing? So we're going to bring those on screen now for you. Cassie, is that all good? Yep. Okay, so again, I know I said that we could see the edge of the softbox, but this is something I can easily manipulate. When I go to the ends, this is more the 100mm. So you see, you need to be aware though that you get this kind of haze effect, obviously because the light is traveling directly into the lens. So that's something you just need to be aware of. If you move slightly off center, then that is one way you can avoid that kind of glare in the camera. Having a lens hood does obviously help with this as well. I didn't have a lens hood for that 100mm, but I do have for that 50mm. So looking at this one, it's probably a better example of a silhouette effect. And then I would just then simply crop in to that I don't even need to crop in, as I say. I could easily Photoshop that corner out. That would be an easy job to do. Generally, black and whites look good with this silhouette effect as well. All right, we are...
I just realised why you're asking here.
Yeah, because Graham has much taller toes than me, that's why. Okay, if we can...
Do you want Joe further back to
the
background now?
Yeah, we'll bring you back a little bit further, Joe. And then we'll just angle yeah, right there. A little bit more, that's it.
Yeah.
And then we'll just park it in a little bit more. Okay, and then do you want to take a seat again? Just sit down, Joe. Just sit down. I'm gonna flip back to my 50 mil. Okay, again, I don't have a light meter, so we're just going to take a test shot and see how we get on. So, Joe, because we are using an overhead light, I'm going to need Joe to be consciously aware that her key light is obviously from above. So if you can keep your chin a little bit higher for me, Joe, that'd be great, because obviously that light's coming down and we want to see some of the face. We'll show her before and after what it would look like if Joe just kind of looked forward or looked up. But first of all, we'll have you kind of more up, more. That's it. Let's take a test shot. Oh, actually, sorry. I'm just going to bring this up a little bit just so it's clearing my shot a little bit more. Oh, Graham, you mind giving me a hand? I really...
You're the one that goes to the gym.
I
don't go to the gym.
Oh, it's because it's up all the way.
Oh, okay.
I thought I was really weak then. Oh.
That's we're all the way up now.
That's good. Well, let's see if it still works, shall we? We'll see how robust they are. It's part of the test, yeah. Yeah, I'm still reviewing it. Okay.
In action, real world review.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, very moody, very dramatic. Notice how the light quality has changed dramatically from the other setups that we've done previously. And notice how, again, because it's coming from above, Joe consciously needs to keep her chin up so that we can obviously see her face, because if she didn't, then it would be even more in shadow. So we can go even more fancy with this, because I think it will lend itself. So if you want to move your arms a little bit more, you know, don't be afraid to... That's it. Okay, yeah, that's lovely. Hold that, Joe. And then eyes to me. That's cool, awesome. And then bring your arm around here. That's it, yeah, hold that. And then eyes back to me. Great, really, really nice, Joe. That's cool.
Paul's just asked on
Lovely.
Facebook.
Relax.
Oh, it's moved. Paul's just asked on Facebook. Hi, Tommy. I use speed lights. Can I get the same quality, or is there just not enough power in speed lights? Someone else asked about using a Pico 200, which is a bit brighter than normal speed light.
Yep.
Could you get the same effect with a Pico 200? So you're answering two questions in one.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think the speed light one's probably more important because it's so much further away in power compared to the 300. And the answer is yes, you can absolutely get, you could use a speed light here as well. So looking at the settings, I'm at 1/8 power at 6.3. Now remember I said earlier that you can manipulate the flash power by changing your aperture. So yes, I'm at 6.3. I mean, my maths isn't great, but I would predict that you might be looking more towards the top end of the power of the speed light. You might be looking more towards full power. I reckon you could still do it, but if you wanted to give your speed light a little bit of breathing room, then maybe try shooting these shots at maybe f4, and then that would mean that you can bring your power down. So just to prove that point, I'm going to go to f4. So I'm going from 6.3 to f4. Now this will come out brighter, but that's going to mean I can bring down the power of the flash, which means it's not working as hard. So we're going to pretend we're using a speed light for a minute, and I'm going to shoot at f4. I'm going to bring my power down. I don't know exactly how much because we're not using a light meter, but we'll get it. We'll figure it out in a few shots. So I'm at f4, and let's see if we can get a similar exposure, thanks, Joe, than we did before. So that's actually not bad. I'm quite impressed with that. So again, that's at f4, and now my flash power is at 132 power. So it's much lower, much lower. A speed light would definitely be able to handle this. I'm almost confident it would. And a Pika 200, obviously it will be able to handle that as well. A Pika 200 you'd place somewhere in the middle. Speed light, then a Pika 200, then a City 300 Pro. So if you're going to do this with a speed light, then for sure you can do this with a Pika 200 as well.
I think the main real difference when I've been using different things is just the refresh rate. So if you're doing action and stuff like that, that's when you're going to really notice the difference.
Oh yeah.
It's the speed between it.
100%, yeah. As I say, so if you were shooting at full power, obviously any flash at full power is going to need 1 or 2 seconds recycle time, but speed lights may even need longer if they're running on AA batteries. So yeah, recycle time is a big thing as well. Yeah. The last thing you want is to take 5 shots and every other shot is one that's lit and one that isn't. It really does throw you off. So maybe you want to consider something like a Pika 200 first, going from a speed light. And if you want to improve that, because I believe, not 100% sure, but I believe that a Pika 200 is the same power as maybe 4 or 5 speed lights in one. Not 100% sure on that, but it's certainly obviously more power than a speed light. So think about maybe one of those two as your next purchase to upgrade from a speed light. All right?
Cool.
All good?
Simon's just asked, as a quick thing as we're doing this,
yeah.
What other extra safety precautions are required for doing overhead lights? Apart from making sure you don't hit the ceiling.
Making sure you don't hit the ceiling, making sure you have someone who's taller than you. Having this counterweight here is obviously super important as well. That's obviously going to help counterbalance it. Now, as I said earlier, I am using a heavy duty boom arm. So you can use other boom arms, but this one's a heavy duty one. And this one just gives me even more satisfaction that everything's it's gonna hold it. It's gonna be fine. I've had this. Yeah, you're fine, Joe. You're fine. We'll find out. We'll find out. We'll slowly loosen it off and test how strong it is. Yeah. So having a heavy duty boom arm, having this sandbags to counterweight it is going to be a good precaution to have if you're doing overhead. If you're using obviously a smaller softbox and maybe a speed light, then obviously that is less weight, but you still regardless don't want it falling on your model. So the more if you have like a 600 watt strobe, if you start investing in getting even bigger strobe, then why chance having a 600 watt strobe that's that expensive on something as flimsy as a cheaper boom arm? So pay the extra, and the same with the stand as well. Pay the extra for a decent light stand if you've spent a lot of money on your strobe.
At the end of the day, the stands and stuff like that will last a very long time.
100%, yeah. These will be built to last forever. The C stands holding the backdrop up, they'll last forever. All the links to the stands, the normal C stands and the ones on wheels, they'll be in the description below. So do check those out if you want to pick one of those up. All the links should be in the description.
Right, I'm just going to cover a question because Ray's asked a couple of times.
Go on, Ray.
It's just that with the setup work with a softbox with an external flash instead of continuous light, we are actually using external flash. We're not using continuous light. It's just the model light that's on there. So I just wanted to cover that up, that we are actually using a flash, not the model. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, you could use continuous lighting to shoot this. The continuous lighting may be even heavier though. That's something you have to bear in mind. There's the beauty of external or these strobes is that they are lightweight, but they obviously carry a punch, but continuous light may be even heavier. So definitely get the stronger boom arm.
Cool.
All good?
All good. So the other thing is what someone asked a little while ago, what was the difference between this and the clamshell? Would you use a reflector with this kind of shot as well? Yeah,
do you know what? Let's do it. Let's see what it looks. I wasn't planning to do this, but let's bring the reflector in. Actually, yeah, I totally forgot to use this one. So this is a reflector that some of you might not have used before. This is as the name suggests, it's a curved reflector, and we've spoken about the catch light in the eyes and how I'm particular of a certain catch light in the eyes. What's great about this curved reflector is, again, the catch light that it gives, obviously underneath the eyes. Because of the shape, it gives us a much more organic look. So we'll take a shot with and without. It might be better suited for a clamshell. We might, if might very quickly sneak back to the clamshell just so I can show you the difference between a normal reflector and when we use this awesome curve reflector. So let's see if we can take a shot with this overhead. And then if it gives us the look we want, then great. If not, then we can maybe sneak back to the clamshell one, just so I can show you the catch light in the eye on this one. Okay, so folks at home, that's if you're looking at the cut to the screen, that's what we got now. That is without a reflector. Now we're going to take a shot with this curve reflector. If we can, yeah, something similar. But though the beauty of using the curve reflector now is Jo might not, we will take a test shot, but she might not need to look up as much because she now has some light bouncing up at her. So we'll have a play with it and see what we get.
We're testing on the spot here.
Testing on the spot.
I like it.
Okay, Jo, same again. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. Great. And once more looking this way.
Gavin's just asked, and here while she's taking those photographs, is the softbox
Nice.
in front, behind, or in line with your model?
Once more, sorry, Graham.
So is the softbox in front, behind, or in line with your model at the moment? Where is it positioned? I don't think it's coming across quite clear.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Might not be able to see this, see the angle of this, but so Jo is almost on the edge of the softbox here. So she's not dead center, she's almost on the edge. And what's nice about placing your model on the edge here when you're doing overhead is that the light is able to almost come down and come around Jo rather than being dead center. So there's more room here for it to come down, bounce on this reflector, and also bounce into Jo. So it just gives us even more room and even a better light quality. So yeah, so she'll be sitting on the edge, which again is like another type of feathering that we were doing in the very first setup. And if we look at the cut to the screencast, we can see the difference when we use that curve reflector or just any reflector in general. This will be the same. If we compare the two, so we can see the difference when we use that reflector and when we don't. Now again, I want you to make note of the light position. Because of the position, it's not really hitting the background, which is why we're getting such a really dark background. Almost like a black backdrop, even though, as you can see here, it's a grey backdrop. This is a nice little feature if you want to almost change the colour of your backdrop, is that you don't necessarily need to just change out the backdrop colour. You can just tweak your light and make it look dark without having to tweak too much. So that's quite a cool experiment. That was a really good question. Who was that by?
I can't remember now. I can scroll back through the channel and find out.
Do you know what I had a message this morning, Graham. I don't know if I told you this. It was a guy called Mark, and he said, "Oh, will you be doing the live stream, or will it stay on YouTube afterwards?" And I said, "Yeah, it will still stay on." He was like, "Oh, good, because I'm going out with the wife tonight. Maybe I'll stream it over dinner."
Over dinner, yeah.
And he said, "I actually thought it was last night." He said, "I actually sent the kids to bed early just so I could have the TV and I could watch it. And then I realised at 10 past when nothing happened that it's Wednesday."
That's 100% something I would do. Yeah. Definitely put the kids to bed early. There's something on TV or something on at 7 o'clock. Yeah,
I love, yeah.
Oh, I gotta go do something.
I love Mark's commitment with that. Just sending the kids off to bed. Cool. Let's actually, I want to do one more clamshell. I'm looking at the time. Is this set up 4?
This is set up 4, so we've still got 1 to go.
We're still got, okay. I want to, Graham, if we can move the light back to clamshell, because I just want to really quickly show the folks at home the catch light when it's in the position I'd like it to be, to really show this off.
This is where height pays off.
And having it on wheels as well.
Yeah.
So we'll clear Jo, and then we can string. That's it, about there, yeah.
About there.
Okay. So what I'm doing slightly different compared to the clamshell setup is that because of the curve reflector, I'm intentionally twisting it more down than I did before. I'm intentionally doing that because I really want to show you guys the effect of this curve reflector in the eyes. So let's take, just going to center this a little bit more. Okay. And I might even bring the height up on this just so we can really see the difference between that first clamshell setup we did and this one.
Cool. Ray's just asked a question which I can quickly answer. Thanks for that. We're referring to our other question. How much of a difference would it make if the two lights at the back were off? But I think you showed at the beginning that the actual lights in the room, including the lights at the back, are still making no difference.
Yes, so if you so if you cut to my screencast, this is the shot that we took at the very start of the broadcast. That is with all the lights on, including those two big lights in the background. So you can see it's not really making a difference to our exposure at all. So it's then a good exercise and shows you that the only thing you're seeing exposed is from our strobe. All of these lights are just to make this room look nicer, basically.
It does look good.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with how this is looking. So we're back to 50 mil. I'm going to flip back to the 100 mil if I may. I'll hand you that.
Yep.
Thanks, Graham. Okay, so I'll flick to the 100 mil. So we're obviously going to get even tighter crop on Joe, and we should hopefully see an even better result with the catch light in Joe's eyes because we've now effectively doubled our focal length. So I might need to change my settings again, but we'll just take a test shot and see how it looks. All right, Joe, that's awesome. Hold that there for me. Great. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so if we give my my laptop a chance to wake up again. While we're doing that, I'm just going to fire off a couple more, but you can see if you've cut to my camera, my laptop cast, you can see right here. I don't know why my laptop's not letting me zoom in at the moment. It's because of this thing. Okay. Nope, it's not. Oh, it's because I'm in library. There we go. All right. So you can see here the curvature of that reflector, rather than just having a normal reflector, which would just be a little square or a tiny little circle, which may end up being a little bit distracting. So in a moment, actually, Graham, we'll flip back to the normal reflector and we'll just do a comparison between these reflectors. So let me take a couple more and then we'll have the other reflector on standby.
Okay. Whilst you're taking notes, I can't know how to pronounce this correctly, but Olendi's asked,
really nice. Awesome.
Do you prefer silver or white lined softboxes? So what is your take on silver or white lined?
That's, who's that by?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but it's Olendi.
Okay.
Olendi.
Well, that's a really,
apologise.
That's a really good question though, because I quite often get that question, especially when it comes to beauty dishes as well. What's the difference between like white or silver? And people have preference. My personal preference is I prefer silver. The reason why I prefer silver is it gives you more of a specular, contrasted look. It's only marginal, to be fair, compared to the white. But another big reason that I choose to use the silver is because it's specular and because it bounces the light a little bit more, I actually end up using less power. So I can actually work my strobe a little bit less using the silver one versus the white one. So that's why I tend to go for the silver one over the white one. It's more specular, but it's actually saving more power in my flash. All right, cool, let's swap out.
As in contrast to that question, because I do more baby stuff, I actually prefer white because I like the softer, softer lights. Okay. So there you go.
In contrast to that question, was that a pun there, Graham? Was that intentional?
There you go. Pun not intended.
Pun not intended. Okay, folks, so we're going to now swap out. I know we're going back to our clamshell, but it's just so we can show you the differences between that curved reflector and what a standard reflector that most of us might already have at home does. Okay, same again, Joe. Cool, and relax. Okay, so if we zoom in and if we compare. Whoops. Okay, can you zoom in when you're in this mode, Graham?
Yes, I don't use Max.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you should be able to zoom in. If you zoom beforehand and then,
okay.
and then do the end button, maybe that's it.
Or maybe someone in the comments knows, as clearly me and Graham don't know what we're doing in Lightroom. But I can show you between these two. So here, you can see the difference between the catch light, between this one and this one. So you can see that's our standard reflector, and that's using our curve reflector.
To be honest, going from the live stream, it's probably better to flick between the two anyway.
Actually, yeah, that's a good shout, yeah. So you can see here it almost gives a little bit more sparkle to Joe's eye. It adds, you know, the catch light is obviously larger, which looks, in my opinion, even better, rather than just that standard little reflector that we got in that last shot there, where it's kind of that shape. It's that rectangular shape. I already said that I didn't like that kind of shape because I preferred something a bit more octagonal or circular. Cool.
Monica's just asked, before we move on to the last setup, if you had a lens that's 18 to 200mm, would it work the same as an 85mm prime lens, or would you need to change settings, or what's better?
It's all down to the capability of the lens itself. So forgive me, I've not used the 18 to 200. If anyone else in the room knows the aperture of that 18 to 200, it might be an f4.
It's a 5.6 or something at the top.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all down to the aperture of the lens itself. So I was shooting those shots there at f4. So you could potentially get, I mean, if it was f4 or 5, even if it was 5.6, yes, you could still get away with it. Obviously, you would have slightly less depth of field, assuming it did start at 4 or 5.6. You would just have slightly less depth of field. In all honesty, though, it's all about the light quality. You're going to notice a difference in the light quality versus a slight difference in that aperture change. So yes, 100% you can get away with using that 18 to 200. You would actually, you know, unlike me, you would have focal length to actually play with here as well. I only have this prime focal length, but you would potentially have more focal length to play with, assuming your aperture could do what I'm doing right here, if that makes sense.
Cool. And Stanley's just asked, can you get the same effect with a normal speed light, but without a softbox? How important is a softbox?
To be honest, it's the modifier that's the most important thing, more important than the light itself you're using. Light is just light. Going back to some of the comments that I got on that original that original video, 5 ways to use one softbox, a lot of comments were from people saying, I only could achieve those shots because I was using a 600 watt strobe. It's nothing to do with the strobe. It was all to do with the modifier. I've said time and time again that you can absolutely do all of those setups and these setups with a speed light. It's all down to the choice of modifier you're using. If you want to replicate these, then get City 300, Pico 200, City 600, get a speed light. But as long as you get this exact softbox or something very close, then you are going to achieve very similar results regardless of the strobe you're using.
100%. I actually used a speed light for about a year, but a really good softbox. I did all my work using a speed light because I'm a portable, doing stuff at home normally for babies and kids and stuff. I completely agree. You can use a speed light and still, with a really good modifier, get some great results.
Yeah, 100%. It's more important to have a great modifier than it is to have a very expensive strobe, as Graham said. Start with a speed light. There's nothing wrong with that. Buy what you don't have. That's what my friend Andy always says. Buy what you don't have. If you don't have this next modifier, but you have a speed light, then get the modifier first before getting the more expensive strobe. Buy what you don't have first.
Cool.
Cool. Shall we move on to our last setup? Setup 5.
So the last one is short and broad lighting.
Short and broad lighting. Okay, cool. So let's start.
Do you want a reflector for this?
We'll move the reflector and we'll bring this down. Okay, and we're going to be wheeling this around a little bit, but first we're going to start with a broad light. Actually, we'll start with the broad light. Okay, so when people refer to broad and short lights, it's all to do with the angle in which the model is looking at the camera on. Broad and short lighting doesn't work if the model is facing you directly. It's only when the model is at a slight angle. So we're going to move Jo so she's at a slight angle this way. That's it. And then we're going to light her broadly. So that just means broadly means that most of the light is hitting Jo's face. Short lighting is where less of the light is hitting Jo's face. So broad lighting will be mostly hitting her face here, and short lighting will be over this side. Does Mike want to go?
Swap over.
Yeah.
You can't see Jo. We need to see Jo.
So we're going to flip it this way. So we're going to, yeah, that's cool. Sorry, Mike. All right, so we'll start with our broad light. Now, when I demo this, when I'm doing demos at the photography show, it's surprising how different your light can look when the model just changes direction. So sometimes you don't even need to change the lighting direction. All you would need to do is just simply move the model's chin left or right, and it can create a completely different look. Or you can move your angle yourself. So there's three different things. You can either move the softbox, the model can move their face position, or thirdly, you can physically move yourself. Now, for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to move the softbox, and I'm going to stay where I am, and Jo's head position is going to stay where it is. And we're just going to move the light and show you the difference between broad and short lighting. All right, so we're going to start with broad. As I said, broad means that most of the light is hitting Jo's face. Okay, I think we'll start it about there. Okay, I'm actually going to bring it back a little bit more. Okay, Jo. So you're gonna, yeah, just look at me slightly off center. Can you do me a favor and just brush your hair out, just so we, yes, that's it. Okay, I'm at 1/160th of a second at f5.6 at ISO 100. I don't know exactly if this is going to turn out right, but we'll just take a test shot and just see how we get on. Okay, so Jo, for this, we're going to not have to worry about our hands. This is just a demonstration of how the light's going to fall on your face. So if you can just look slightly off this way for me, that's it, hold that there for me. And if I can ask you for the next couple of minutes to try and, oh no, sorry, to try and not move your face. Okay, hold that there. Okay, need to crank up the power a little bit. So I'm going to go back to I'm going to go to 1/8 power. Okay, same again, Jo.
Whilst you're talking about power there, Arjan's just asked, does a bigger softbox need more power to light the subject the same?
Yes, it does. Yeah, the bigger the softbox, the more light is needed for sure. And some softboxes will obviously be double diffused as well, 2 layers of diffusion. Some will even have a grid as well. So if you've got a big softbox, 1 layer, 2 layer, and a grid of all diffusion or modification, then yes, you're going to need more light. The more modifiers or diffusers you put in the way of that light, the more power is obviously going to be needed to punch through that. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Okay, so just zoom out, sorry there. Okay, so that is broad light. So most of the light is hitting Jo's face. So now I've got a little mark here, so I'm not going to move when I move myself back. So Jo's not going to move, I'm not going to move. All I'm going to do is just move the light this way. And that's what, not even 90 degrees. And we're going to take the same shot, and this is short lighting. Same again, Jo, lovely. Okay, that's probably too short actually. Let's bring that back a little bit. So we only need to make these tiny little movements in lighting to create a different result. Lovely. And again, I was probably a little bit too short again. I just really wanted to go for a dramatic look, Jo, sorry. Just lost your eyes. Where are they gone? Okay, same again, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if we compare that with this one, Okay, the difference between short and broad lighting. So we can see the bulk of the light is hitting Joe's face in the broad lighting. If you want more of a dramatic effect, then yes, you can move that light around the edge, and then you'll get a short lighting because less light is obviously hit. It appears that less light is hitting Joe because it's come around the back this way. So that's all of our 5 setups. Do we have any?
I was just going to quickly say, would you use a reflector in this setup? If
Yeah.
you're using broad lighting.
He always likes to keep me on my toes, so yeah, absolutely. We can definitely.
I've seen all your videos.
So we can definitely add another reflector into this setup. Again, here we're doing it in the opposite side of Joe.
Oh, and Sheldon's just reminded us if we can quickly show the difference in focal lengths as well.
Yes, great. Absolutely, definitely. Let me do this. We'll do this one first, and then we'll. Okay, we can see the difference there with those last 2 shots. When we use, again, with and without reflector. So it really does show that as cheap as they are, inexpensive as they are, they create and give us a really, really different look. It's always great to have a reflector in your camera bag whenever you're doing any sort of shoot, whether that be a headshot or whether that be anything, just a simple portrait like this. So it really does show that with all these 5 different setups, using only one light can create so many different looks. So you don't always have to have multiple lights in your arsenal. Sometimes just one light and a reflector is all you need. So let's show the difference between that 50mm and a 100mm. Unfortunately, I don't have any other lenses with me. Otherwise, I would have shown you the difference between something even more dramatic like a 200mm. So so we're looking at 100mm. This is a 50mm, exact same again, Joe. Lovely. Eyes over here this way. That's it, hold that. Great.
So Ad Young 153 has just asked, could you tell us the program that you're using for tethering?
What's that, sorry?
The program we're using for tethering.
Yes, yeah, we're using Adobe Lightroom. I use it to edit in and also use tethering. So it makes sense that I'm using this. I know that some people use Capture One. To be honest, I've not really played around enough of it to use it as part of my workflow. So to be honest, I prefer to just use Capture One. Also, I've got like loads of different random filters that I have in the, what would it be called? The catalog?
Presets.
The presets, yeah. I just have random presets that I've built over the years or have bought over the years, and it's nice just to give me a ballpark figure of what the exposure might look like when I've had to play around properly in maybe Photoshop. But it's also nice as well, I can also put it into the tethering program as I'm doing here. So it's just got a minor color tweak on these images here just to give me a ballpark figure of what it could look like. So that's why I use Lightroom. It's kind of multifunctional for me rather than a program that I use just for tethering.
Cool.
Cool.
Are we showing the difference between the two?
Oh, yes. It's on screen now. It's on screen now. So that's the difference between a 100mm. Yeah, let's do that one again, Joe. So we'll bring the hair back and we'll try and copy the first one, just so the hair's not influencing people. That's it. Hold that there for me. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. So we can see the difference between the 100mm and the 50mm. If you've obviously got a camera with great megapixels, then you can obviously punch that in and not see too much quality loss. I'm still using a 5D Mark III, and it still does everything I need it to do. It's, I don't know how old the camera is now, but 22 megapixels or thereabouts is enough for me on this camera. It does everything I need it to do. That's the difference between that. Let's see if I can pull up a quick shot of all our setups all in one. If there are any questions while I do this, Graham?
Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to quick flip through any final questions. So if anyone's got any final questions, please throw them up. I'll try and get through all of them. If you've got a small studio, it's a great question for you. If you've got a small studio, can you get the same effect with a smaller softbox? From Jed?
Yes, 100%. So I said earlier that if you want to create the effect of having almost a larger softbox is bring that softbox you have just a little bit closer, or as close as you can without it being in shot. Because the closer you can bring your softbox to that model, the more it's going to appear like you're using a larger softbox without having to buy a larger softbox. So it's a great thing for in a small home studio. And another thing for a small home studio is using grids as well. I know we've not really shown that. We will do that in another live stream if we do another one. But if you are using a grid, it's also good to eliminate the bounce that you might have from smaller size rooms, which I've certainly used. I've certainly used grids to prevent that. Or, as I said at the start, feathering as well. If you don't have a grid, try feathering that light first to try and eliminate the bounce off of the walls or make your background even darker just by simply feathering the light.
Cool. Justin's just quickly asked, which of the setups would you use to do headshots for hairstylists' websites?
If I was doing a shoot with a hairstylist, I would be definitely using more than one light. I don't think it's you could certainly do it with one light, but if I was being commissioned to just shoot headshots with the intention of selling hair or showing off the hair, I'd have to use at least two lights. So I would obviously have a key light and then have that second light maybe behind the model pointing at the hair for sure. It would need to be at least two lights, and then maybe use multiple reflectors as well, just to try and highlight obviously the work that's been done on the hair. So I would need to use at least two, I would say.
Cool. Wes has just asked, please make another video showing your settings with each picture. I never get my sharpness right. Should I buy a more expensive camera? I'm on an 80D at the moment, but looking at 5D. Okay,
yeah. There might be a simple fix, and that's a video that's also on my YouTube channel. And as you have a DSLR, maybe the image sensor and the focal plane sensor are not aligning, and maybe it needs to be calibrated. Maybe you need to perform some lens calibration. This is a piece of software called Focal, F-O-C-A-L. Maybe give this a go, and that could be why your sharpness is being a bit off slightly. Go and find it on my YouTube channel, and you can do this from the convenience of your own home. You don't have to send it away, and you can calibrate your lens to your specific body. Give that a go. If that doesn't work, then maybe you need to take it to a camera repair shop. Maybe they'll do an even deeper kind of calibration on it as well. Maybe it would need that. But if not, then give us a message, a DM on Instagram, and I'll be happy to help you out further.
Yeah, the 80D is quite a sharp camera, so it might be something not quite right there.
Yeah.
Another question's just come in. Are we going to be doing a tutorial on how we made this live stream? I've liked everything I've seen before. It's more, it's like anything I've ever seen before. Well,
thank you very much. Who was that from?
That's from Sheldon.
From Sheldon. Yeah, Sheldon, yeah, you read my mind. Of course I'm going to do a behind the scenes on how this is all put together. I'm nerding out right now of how we're able to do all this. We are 100% going to do that. And I think that is a good spot to, I'm looking at the time and we need to get out of the studio soon. So I think that's a good time to bring this live stream to a close. And I'm going to introduce you to everyone. So I want to just say thank you to Graham over here. Graham obviously moderating the comments and has been assisting me. We've had Joe in the background model beautifully for us. If you want to swing that camera around, Michael Mowbray, we've got Kaylee, makeup artist over here. And we've got Stephen, who's been on camera as well. Stephen, if you want to now swing your camera to Mr. Michael Mowbray, the legend that is Mowbray. We have Dan as well. He's been helping us with behind the scenes and filming, and he's brought some extra gear that really saved us. And then lastly, at the back of the room, we have Miss Cassie Reynolds. She has been vision mixing and doing all the cutting and all of that good stuff. Without all of these guys, this would not be possible. So thank you all so much, guys. And I really hope you enjoyed this live stream. Please give it a thumbs up or a share or a subscribe if you haven't already done so. But that's about it from me. Thanks ever so much for watching, guys. We'll see you soon. Cheers.